5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the Jedi 08, also known as Jeremy the Jedi Guillory.
This is Tyler Turbo Williams. And you're tuned in to the Broken Turnbuckle podcast.
Start out right now. So today's episode, we are working with the top 10 WrestleMania events, or top 10 WrestleManias of all time. It took us 5 hours to come up with this list. We had to go through hours of matches, hours of critiques. At one point, we had 19 WrestleManias that we had to go through. And we were like, dude, we're not going to do 19, top 10, top 20 WrestleManias. This is going to take way too long to filter out. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through the top 10 WrestleManias of all time.
And also, please keep in mind that this is our personal list. So very objective. Remember that. And before you ask why we chose these manias over certain manias that may be your favorite, do your respective research. But that's our job as well. We're going to tell you match by match why we consider these manias to be the top 10 manias on our list. So, little disclaimer.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's start from number 10, right?
Yeah.
Number 10, we have WrestleMania 33. Now, Jeremy, we're going to start with the pre-show, obviously. We're going to start with number 1 being Neville versus Austin Aries for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship match. What are your initial thoughts on this particular battle?
That one match was very good. It was good pre-show opening. It's just the aftermath of what happened with the Cruiserweight division after WrestleMania that really makes this number 10 overall, because 1 year later, both of those two were not in the company anymore, due to several different reasons. Mainly due to the payout that they got while doing the pre-show for that. One report says that they were supposed to be there for the opening of the show itself and things, and they were bumped down to the pre-show. So apparently they were not really happy about it. It was a good match. I saw it, but you were at work at that time, so you weren't able to really see it live. I do believe that you saw it on a replay and things. So what do you think of that?
So everybody, a little history between me and Jedi over here. First of all, I'm very happy to be aboard this podcast before we start. My apologies for not being available last week, but here we are now. Me and Jeremy were roommates at one point, and we were going to the same college, and we happened to watch these WWE events as they unfold. And when I first came back and was able to see the pre-show match, I initially thought it was a great match. Neville at the time was one of my favorites, especially when he was doing the King of Cruiserweights gimmick. I thought that he was very exceptional in this match. Austin Aries also held his own. I respect it. I think it was a great opening to the pre-show, in my opinion. And it's one that I can actually go back and watch with no issues. As we go down the card on this Mania, we see Mojo Rawley winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. We do not, for obvious reasons, need to get into that outside the fact that they had a Gronkowski interference that allowed Mojo Rawley to win. That's due to the NFL connection, obviously. and he is no longer relevant. Respect the Mojo Warley, but yeah, that was what it was. Do you have anything to say? We're gonna continue down.
No,
All
I
right.
don't.
So we got Dean Ambrose defeating Barry Corbin for the WWE Intercontinental Championship, and AJ Styles defeated Shane McMahon by pinfall. This was a great opening match to the show. Me and Jeremy, we enjoyed watching a lot of these matches. Um, I think AJ looked great in this particular match. I didn't think that Shane McMahon would be able to pull it off. Shane McMahon is not a scrub in the ring, but he was older at this point, so it was questionable a little bit if he can hang with someone like AJ Styles. But they tore the house down for the beginning match. No issues with it whatsoever. Jeremy, you want to add to this?
No, I don't. I don't need to.
Bet. So everything speaks for itself in that. Um, Next down the list in the card, we have Kevin Owens going against Chris Jericho for the United States Championship. And me and Jeremy had a conversation about this particular match pertaining to the fact that um, Kevin Owens won the Universal Championship via interference by Triple H. And from that moment on, I thought the strap was going to be put to Kevin Owens' back, and it should have been. But Vince just decided, hey, we need to have someone be on his entourage via Chris Jericho. So obviously, we know about the Festival of Friendship and how that created a big turn. And Owens went off to face Goldberg at Fastlane. We do not need to revisit this moment. We know how it ended. The match didn't even last more than maybe 15 seconds before Goldberg got the belt. So that led to this match at Mania between Jericho and Owens. I thought that this was an okay match. This is not the best work from either of these two. I feel like they could have did better in the ring. I didn't. I don't hate the match in particular, but um, there weren't anything noteworthy of us to speak about on it. Um, do you have any thoughts?
Um, so we've elaborated on this match while we were reviewing the WrestleManias, going down the list, see what will make the list, what will not. Um,
Mhm.
they both have talked about this match.
Yes,
Jericho has stated in his podcast that he wishes this match was later on down the card. And Kevin Owens has said that this match was one of his worst matches. And that when he went backstage to see Vince after the match, Vince told him that that was one of the worst matches he's ever seen. Um, do do we personally agree to both assessments? Because the conflicting issue is that Jericho says that that's one of his better matches. Kevin Owens says that's one of his worst matches.
I think
So
Jericho was saying that from, and because I look at wrestlers as artists, they
yeah,
create their own art and work and present it to the audience. They paint their own canvas. No pun intended for the WWE ring.
yeah,
But I think Chris Jericho was saying that from a perspective of pride. He kind of probably looked at the match differently than everybody else. And yeah, I'm not going to agree with him on it, but I understand where he was coming from.
yeah.
Now, with Owens saying that Vince was disappointed in his performance, this is the time where I have to agree with the old man. It could have been better.
Yeah,
I forgot the time limit that they were provided to have this match, but it could have been a lot better. It could have been executed better. So
definitely.
it is what it is. But yeah, let's move on down to the Fatal 4-Way Elimination match for the WWE Raw Women's Championship. This is Bayley versus Charlotte versus Nia versus Sasha Banks. Jeremy, you got anything to say?
Let's see. They all tried to pin Naya, I believe, and of course that always happens. They all gang up on the bigger
On the big
star,
person. Yeah,
on the big person every single time. Of
yeah.
course, the big person's gonna power out over them. Um, I believe this was one of the WrestleManias where Charlotte did one of her moonsaults on all the stars, and Bayley came out with the win. She was probably the only four horsewomen at the time that did not have the champion, that never had the championship, and she got it. So, yeah.
Mm,
Um, so
yeah, yeah. Um, this was big for Bayley. At the time, I expected maybe Charlotte or Sasha to win the match. I didn't expect Bayley to come out with the win, but I was happy that she did so.
where was Becky,
So,
by the way?
say that again.
Where was Becky, by the way?
I have no clue actually. I don't remember. I do not remember. Um,
Yeah, because it would have been great to have all four of them in that match instead of Nia and
yeah,
things. That would have been a lot better match for that particular event.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Um, this will be the next match on the card is a fatal four-way tag ladder match for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championships. This will be Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, Cesaro and Sheamus, and Enzo Amore and Big Cass. And we had a surprise appearance. Obviously, everybody knows the big return of the Hardy Boys at the big stage. New Day did bring them out. And I remember me and Jeremy watching this moment and just excitement went through me. That child came out of me a little bit, where it's like, wow, I get to finally see these men come back to the industry um, to go have a resurgence in their career a little bit, and it was a decent resurgence. Hardy Boys defeated Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, the Bar, and Enzo Amore and Big Cass. So that's the results of this match. This is mainly my critique of this match mainly bases off the return. That was kind of the big moment for the match that everybody talks about rather more than the wrestling. So that's how I look at it. Jedi, do you got anything to add?
Um, in the build up to this match, I think that we did talk about the possibility of the Hardys actually returning to the to this event, if you
Yeah,
recall,
yeah, I do.
and we were thinking, oh well, they may come back at um, the Raw after WrestleMania and things,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden they decide no, they're going to bring them out here and now. And of course, when the New Day comes out and say that there's another tag team coming out, at first we were thinking, okay, are they going to come out and show up as a fourth team, or is there something else going on?
mm,
And right when they did their coup thing and everything else, we immediately knew that was the Hardys. And when that music hit, we were very excited. We were jumping up and down, cheering like, "Oh my God, they actually did it! They're actually back!"
you feel me? That
Yeah,
it was a big moment. It was a big moment. Uh, let's go down to John Cena and Nikki Bella versus Miz and Maurice. This match didn't need to happen, as me and
no,
Jeremy discussed off the camera. Why this match was made just for them to do the proposal at the end, I have no fucking clue. Uh,
it
but
did not age well.
it did not age well, obviously, because they are not together, obviously. But yeah, I feel like the match to get to that moment was not necessary. All they had to do was basically have Cena come out, announce that he had an announcement. They could have built that up. He could have brought Nikki Bella out, got on the knee, proposed, boom, cut the lights, on to the next segment. That's all they had to do. But instead, they had to go muck it up because this is their face
Promo
of
it
the
up.
company. So it
And
happened how it happened. The match is nothing noteworthy. Obviously, we're here for the after match moment. So
yeah,
hey, there's nothing much more to add to that.
no,
Um,
no.
let's go down to Seth Rollins defeating Triple H in an unsanctioned match. The funny story about this one, Jeremy had to wake me up. This is embarrassing. Okay, so I worked 3 jobs, right? I worked 3 jobs at the time. I came back tired of shit. And initially, when the entrances were done, I had to kind of try to like see what was going on, and then eventually I fell asleep. And Jeremy had to wake me up, and the match was basically finisher, match over. Seth went in with a bad leg. That was kind of what they were selling in the match. So it was a little bit more of a methodical type of match, and a little bit slower. It was definitely not the best work from Seth or Triple H, but um, the build up to the match I actually did like. I did like how Seth came out in NXT and you know came out and basically called Triple H out on his own product. I think that was badass, but the match itself was, it was okay. Um, Jedi, you have anything to add?
3.5 stars. Um,
Sir?
3.5 stars.
3.5 stars? He
Yeah.
said 3.5 stars, y'all. Uh, we got Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt for the WWE Championship. So Bray, let's talk about Bray for a moment. Bray, we're gonna get into a couple of different other matches on some WrestleManias that we have on the list here. But with Bray, it's the story of him not getting a he got a push, but not to the level of a world championship level, right? We seen him debut on the main roster with a lot of noise. We looked at him as like this creepy, crazy, sinister character. He went against Taker at 31, which I will hold to my belief that he should have won that against Taker instead of Brock ending the streak at 30. But that's just me, or Roman, like one of those two. I feel like that could have been a perfect passing of the torch moment. Um, the lead up to this particular match is Bray winning the Elimination Chamber to win the WWE Championship. That was a huge moment. It was a big moment, and it's a moment that I hold in dear. I watched it live, and that brings us to this match at Mania because technically Randy Orton did join the Wyatt family, correct?
Yes.
So this is him basically spying on the Wyatt family, Luke Harper not trusting him, and he eventually turned on Bray, and that led to the match. Uh, I think the match itself, if anybody remembers this match, was a spectacle in a way, but not in a good way. You had bugs on the floor. The way they set up the match, obviously, is that they had picture frames on the ring as they're wrestling of cockroaches and worms and all this weird whatever's going on. And I thought it was very off-putting. It was distracting from the match itself. And yeah, I sound like a critic right now, and we have this on the top 10 list, but I'm just critiquing the negative parts of the match right now. Unfortunately, it didn't live up to expectations, and I feel like they could have did a lot more. Jedi, any thoughts?
It would have been a good match had they not used all of the different projections onto the mat. I don't know what they were thinking with the maggots, the cockroaches, the worms, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Once or twice once would have been decently okay, but
Mm-hmm.
made absolutely no sense. And the way that they projected it literally looked like they just had a projection screen right above the ring and just eyeing it down.
Oh my
And
God. It's like somebody just like you said, just bought a fucking projector and just, hey, point it down at the ring down here. Here you go. Hey,
yeah,
actually put some bugs in the frame in the shot so that way we can get a realistic view of it. It was just off putting. But
yeah, we were when we saw that live, we were like, "What the freaking fuck is this?"
yeah, out loud by the way, we were basically loud as hell in the apartment saying, what are we watching right now? And even up until this point today in modern day, it does not translate well. Let's put it
No,
that way. Uh,
no.
2 thumbs down, man.
I've seen
I'm not
better
giving it that
matches
many
from Bray.
stars.
I've seen better matches from Orton. Like I
Yeah,
said, 1 star for that. 1 star.
yeah,
That brings this WrestleMania down by a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. Right. Um, Next match, we got Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman defeating Goldberg. This was actually a very exceptional match. Backstory to this, obviously, we know that Goldberg returned to Survivor Series and defeated Brock in a squash match, if essentially catching Brock off guard and then doing a jackhammer to win the match. And this is the lead up to their eventual championship match at Mania after Goldberg basically squashed the shit out of Kevin Owens. So here we are. This did what it needed to do. Um, it was short to the point, intense, hard hitting. You know, Goldberg spearing Brock through the barricade was noteworthy. Um, just them beating the shit out of each other for a short amount of time. It achieved what it needed to achieve. It was Godzilla versus Kong, and Brock came out on top. And I feel like that was a good way to. Well, I guess Goldberg's going to retire pretty soon anyway, in his own way. But that could have been a good retirement match for Goldberg if he wanted to take that route. I have no problems with this match, Jedi, to be
Yeah,
honest with you. So,
I mean,
I mean, it's a far cry from their
it's
other Mania match. So,
definitely, and we're gonna be talking about that later on.
yeah,
But their match for this one, um, you kind of think about it, the writing may be on the wall for that because that was their third meeting overall.
yeah, yeah,
Um, the So what happened in the first two was there was WrestleMania 20, and Goldberg won that match. They were doing a big fu to the fans on that. Then they come back for Survivor Series, and Goldberg just squashes Brock Lesnar in like what 27 seconds,
yeah,
and then comes this match for their third meeting at WrestleMania, come full circle, and um, you already know that Goldberg may be not coming back anytime soon anyway, so he's going to drop the belt soon.
yeah. Family man.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
and they decide to go ahead and drop it to Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And with this being a minute squash match, I was like, okay, this. I don't like the way that it did it because Goldberg was dominating most of the time, all the way up until an F5. But hey, we'll take it. We'll take it.
We'll take it, man. It could have been longer. They could have gassed them the fuck out, and we would have
Yeah,
had a very much more worse match. But in actuality, I think the time limit was perfect. I think the length and the intensity of the match and what it did what it needed to do. Let's move on to we're gonna skip the 6 pack challenge, everybody. I'm sorry, nobody cares that. Let's move on.
yeah.
Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. So me and Jeremy also had to watch this match live, and oh, dude, bro, okay, we love The Undertaker over here, y'all. Let's just get this out the way right now. We love The Undertaker. We love what he contributed to the business, and it just seemed like after WrestleMania 30, he just was never the same Taker. He was never the same Taker. I would say after the Hell in a Cell match with him and Triple H with Shawn as the ref, he wasn't the same. And I feel like this is the beginning of him, you know, basically struggling through these matches. Unfortunately, um, yeah, he looked pretty terrible out there against Roman. Um, I feel like uh, this should have been Undertaker's swan song because what else was he going to do after this match? Essentially, they put him against the face of the company, who they were pushing to be the face of the company, and Roman Reigns, and ultimately, he just looked sluggish. He looked awkward, and it wasn't it wasn't appealing to look at all. and they were struggling to do a couple spots, and ultimately Roman got the spear off on him, and he won the match. And after the match, this is when I thought he was going to retire. After the match, he drops his gear in the middle of the ring to signify that he's done with his career. At least that's what I thought in person, right? And me and Jeremy were sitting in silence, just looking at the scene on play out. And I really thought that might have been the end of his career, but we got a couple more WrestleManias to go with him, as we'll talk about, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the match was nothing. It sucked. Why am I going through circles and shit? It sucked. But they got the big dog over. And that next Raw, he said that it was his yard. And in that case, it achieved what it needed to achieve. They want to get the big face over, the person they're trying to push in the company over. And that's why it became the result it became. So, Jedi.
Wow. I mean, that match was just hard to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing that we got out of that was when Roman Reigns was trying trying to pile drive Undertaker, and Undertaker just wouldn't do it, and they spent like 5-10 minutes just to do that one spot,
right,
to get it right, and Undertaker just kept on going down, and they're like, the commentators are trying to back it up, saying, "Oh, he's trying to block it. He's trying to block it." No, no, no. He cannot hold himself up to do it, and it clearly shows. And they just had to barely do it and do a simple 1-2 kick out, and just say, you know what, screw it, we're ending this match right now, because he's clearly gassed. He cannot go on any farther. He looks like an old geezer at this point. So
yeah, right.
I mean, he's like, go and spear me, just spear me, screw it. And we did not like that.
Yeah,
we did not like that at all.
Yeah. So that was WrestleMania 33. We have that at number 10 in our top 10 list. Let us move on to number 9, which will be WrestleMania X8, known as 18. This is the infamous Hogan Rock WrestleMania. So let's go down the card on this. We have Rikishi, Sky 2 Hotty, and Albert defeating Mr. Perfect, Lance Storm, and Tess in a 6-man tag team match with Jacqueline as a special guest referee. I have no recollection of this match. I ain't even going to put my opinion out there. Jedi, you got anything you want to add?
No, I don't.
All right. We got Rob Van Dam defeating William Regal in a singles match for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. We have Diamond Dallas Page defeating Christian for the European Championship. We have Maven versus Goldust, which ended with Spike Dudley pinning Maven. All right. Shout out to Maven. We see what you're doing. Kurt Angle defeated Kane in a singles match. Undertaker defeated Ric Flair in a no disqualification match. Edge defeated Booker T in a singles match. Stone Cold defeats Scott Hall with Kevin Nash. I think this is supposed to be the Stone Cold versus Hogan match, but I don't think Stone Cold wanted to do business with Hogan. So in turn, they had him go against Scott Hall, and they had The Rock go against Hogan. That's the story. I thought for what it was a good match to me. I like the stunner that he did on Scott Hall, and Scott Hall basically cartoonishly jumped in the air. I think it was better than some of Rock's sales to the stunner in my mind. It's hilarious to look at even to this day. RIP to the bad guy, you know what I'm saying? You have any thoughts, Jedi?
Yeah, I do. One moment. Okay. So my thoughts on the Scott Hall Stone Cold match was, it was a pretty decent match.
Mm.
9 minutes 51 seconds of pure. And you're right. You're right. That match was originally supposed to be Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan, but backstage politics happened, and instead of Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan, we got Stone Cold versus Scott Hall, and then we got
Yep.
Rock versus Hogan later on.
Yep.
Um, there's and we get Bill and Chuck versus APA, Dudley Boys, and Hardy Boys in a four corners elimination match for the
Mm.
WWF Tag Team Championship. In between those two matches, that
Yep.
that's 13 minutes of non-noteworthy information. Hulk
Billions.
Hogan and Rock. This is a really bad opinion
Oh.
that we've discussed before coming in, but
Mm.
the way that they are talking about that match, you would really think that that match would have been the main event, but it's not. It is match number 10 out of 12, and they put in a women's championship match between Jazz, Trish, and Lita just to be a buffer between Rock and Triple H's matches,
Mm.
and that's why this is so low on the list is because of how that was executed. Um, Triple H and Jericho had a really great main event match. Should The Rock and Hulk Hogan been the main event? Yes. Um, it did not make any sense to bring the spot with the NWO after that event, that match, after you seeing Scott Hall and Kevin Nash to a match before that. So it made absolutely no sense in that. Tyler, do you have anything else to add for the rest of this event?
For the kids who's watching this podcast right now, which is probably none right now, um, I would say that remember, back in the day when you win a Royal Rumble, you automatically get a main event spot at WrestleMania against the champion. So this is why this went as the main event as opposed to Rock and Hogan. Um, when you look back at how impactful that match was, it's icon versus icon, right? That's where they um, label the match as. For that title alone, definitely I agree with Jedi. This should have been a main event, no questions asked. I feel like they could have made an exception that night and have it as a main event, and it would have been a perfect way to close the show, especially seeing how the match turned out. Um, the crowd was going ape shit for most of the match. The intensity, the pacing, um, everything about it. The match itself was perfect, and this is one of Hogan's better matches in his career, in my opinion. Also, Rock's one of his better matches. Um, I love the heck out of it, and this is why we have this on the list in the top 10. Definitely deserved the spot.
Moving on. Moving on. So next is WrestleMania 30. Um, looking for your reaction on this. WrestleMania 30 is number 8.
Yeah,
Um, so people are going to be asking, why is WrestleMania 30 number 8 and not number 1 or in the top 5? Um,
here we
we've
go.
we've talked about this. So let's start out with your opinion on why it shouldn't be higher on this list, and
Hmm.
we'll go with my opinion next.
Guys, you have to realize, okay, before we put our nostalgic lenses on and go apeshit on the keyboards, you have to realize that yes, Daniel Bryan did carry this WrestleMania. Um, yes, Brock and Undertaker happened on this show, which we will talk more extensively about in a minute here. Um, but when you look at the other matches on the card here, you got a Vicky Guerrero invitational match that went 6 minutes. Okay, um, you have a fatal four-way elimination match. You have the Shield versus the New Age Outlaws and Kane, which actually was a good match. And Cesaro winning the Andre Memorial Battle Royal was also great. But there wasn't anything on the show that dictate it being higher on the list outside of the Daniel Bryan stuff. If you want to argue the streak ending, deserving of notoriety that it got to make it a higher WrestleMania spot, um, I would disagree with you and say watch the match back because the match itself was kind of sloppy because Undertaker got concussed in the match. And because he got concussed, the match kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. And they did finish it, but Undertaker was in bad shape after the match. I think Daniel Bryan actually brought that up in his book. Great book if you haven't read it. It's Yes by Daniel Bryan. So you can get it at your local Barnes and Noble. Um, I just feel like with the rest of the match card outside, this is the key, outside the Daniel Bryan stuff. This is why we have it lower on the list. You have to really dissect the pay per view by itself. Okay. Um, like I said, the Shield was entertaining, and Cesaro winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal was a good moment. Everybody popped huge for it. But in relation to the other manias we have on this list, we have it low for a reason, y'all. So, uh, Daniel Bryan defeating Batista and Randy Orton by submission um, is one of the biggest WrestleMania moments to ever exist in this company. Daniel Bryan winning the big one. It feels like we went through a big journey and we finally got to the end of it, similar to Cody, where we just rode with this. In this case, it'll be an underdog who the corporation tried to throw every obstacle due his way and actually threw obstacles at us, the fans. It was a roller coaster for us to follow this storyline, being fans of Daniel, him coming into the company as American Dragon, having the notoriety that he had, um, you know, getting squashed by Sheamus, which we will talk about in another segment that we will bring up later. Won't be today, but trust me. Uh, just going from that to doing the hell no with him and Kane, and basically trying to deep push him. It turned into yes by the crowd, and it became a natural thing for him. And hell yeah, thank you, Jeremy. And this happened around the time where me and Jeremy were in college. This WrestleMania, and it happened in New Orleans in our backyard. We were unable to attend, unfortunately. Tickets sold fast, bro. They sold very fast. Him winning this match, it was a perfect moment for him. He went on his honeymoon after this match as well with his beautiful wife, Brie Bella. And, unfortunately, he got injured and his run ended pretty quickly. But I think overall, this is one of the best endings to WrestleMania that ever happened. It's up there in the top three. So I got no complaints about this match or his match with Triple H. So shout out to Daniel Bryan, man, or Bryan Danielson right now in AEW. Jedi.
Yeah, this event, as controversial as it is, being this low, has ups and downs. I was watching this from my college bedroom and things, and the biggest drawback for it was, yes, Dan Bryan opened up the actual event itself by pinning Triple H and going into the main event.
Hell of a start.
Then you get the Shield versus the New Age Outlaws squash match. Cesaro. It was supposed to be a 30-man battle royale, but they added an extra guy there, and Cesaro ended up body slam Big Show outside of the ring to win it. Why they ended up doing 31 and who was the extra guy, I still to this day don't know. That one, I think that they miscounted on who was supposed to be taken out. You can't say that it was Cesaro that was supposed to be taken out or the extra man because he's the one that won the match. and they wanted him to do that spot so he can do his Superman Cesaro gimmick.
And just to give a visual on how that spot looked, obviously we weren't there live, but just seeing it on TV and seeing the crowd on their feet as he's doing the big swing to Big Show was something to see. It was a sight to behold, and I definitely enjoyed the ending to that battle royal. It was actually the best battle royal that they ever produced on the Mania show. So you got the best battle royal to exist, and you got one of the best endings to exist on the same Mania. Which is why you're probably questioning why the hell is it so low on the list. Well, we will get to that. We will get to that. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed this Mania. It's definitely one to remember, one of the best Manias of all time. We at the time we said what would top this Mania in the future, and we have some answers for that. So we will get to that eventually.
Yeah. And of course, we get John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. And many people do still to this day believe that Bray Wyatt should have won that match. They do make up for that a few years later in the COVID WrestleMania. And that does come to full circle there. Unfortunately, that event is not on this list, so we cannot talk about that right now. That was a really good WrestleMania overall. That was a good Firefly Funhouse match. But this one came apart point where John Cena had a chance to turn heel, had a chance to hit Bray Wyatt in the face with a chair. He chose not to. And in the match, in the Firefly Funhouse match, he takes that opportunity. Misses everything else, but it's here nor there. Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker.
Oh boy.
Big.
Talk about this one. Let's talk about this one, boy. Like we gotta crack the knuckles for this one. Look,
this is gonna take us a while. Okay. So
this ruled a lot of our 5-hour conversation.
If you say that this match or this event needs to be higher on this list based on that match alone, you must be smoking something very strong. Because both of us being this sober and talking, it took us about 2 or 3 hours to go over this match. 2 or 3 hours.
We got a 5-hour conversation, by the way. So just calculate that in your mind real quick. Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. And the thing is that we were trying to debate, okay, why should this be lower based off of the Brock Lesnar beating Undertaker at WrestleMania? Why should that be lower than anything else? Because technically, whenever we look up information on that moment was not supposed to happen.
Correct.
Undertaker got concussed. They had to end the match early. It was when 25 minutes. Could have gone a little bit longer, sure. That's an average amount of time for a WrestleMania match anyway. So why not? But it feels like they changed the finish on the fly. There was barely a bell rung. And I just remember watching it and talking to one of my friends that was there with me. And we were saying, when should they end the WrestleMania streak? Because it's not going to be here. Everything just shows that this match is not match worthy for that streak to end. And right when I said, when do you think this streak is going to end, comes the 1, 2, 3. And I just turned around and been like, what just happened?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
well,
no crowd, all silence. Everyone was in shock at that point, and no one knew what happened or what was going on until midway near the end of the invitational match for the Divas Championship. The only thing that I remember after the streak ending like the moment after that was AJ Lee applying the octopus on with Black Widow on I don't even know who it was. And they're tapping out. So I don't even know what was going on there. And then next thing you know, here comes Bray Wyatt in his entrance and things, and it's just a wasted match to follow up with that. Everyone's processing what's going on, and no one. I mean,
Ladies and gentlemen, imagine you had a moment like that, right? A surreal moment, and everybody's in silence, everybody's in awe. You got the bulging eyes, you got the gaping mouth, and all this other shit going on. And I was a part of that. At home watching it, it was a very I never done hard drugs or acid before, anything like that. But I think I will correlate it to that. It just felt like a dream sequence of what the fuck, because the way it happened on my side is that um, Undertaker looked out of it. He got knocked woozy. His eyes were gaping wide open, and it was obvious that something was wrong because the match kind of went towards a downward spiral, if you will. And that led to Brock doing an F5, and I did not subscribe to the fact that that was going to be the end of the match. I'm like, well, that ain't going to end the match. Like, come on now. Even though it was the second F5, I was like, or was it his third? I don't remember. Even though he did multiple F5s by that point, I'm like, that ain't going to end the match. They counted 1, 2, 3, and I swear to fucking God, I did not hear a bell because I was so in the moment. I was super shocked. I'm like, and I stood up. I will not lie to you. As everybody in the television stood up, I stood up along with them, like in unison. I stood up off my couch. I'm like, so that carried over around to the point where Jeremy was just talking about the Divas match. Now imagine telling these beautiful women, hey, you gotta follow with this. You gotta follow up from this match. The streak just ended. Everybody's in shock. Go at it. Have fun. I don't know why Vince had a habit of putting the women at the most stupid spots on the card. Like this will be like the death spot where
no
this is before the main event, or this will be after a big event like this happens, where a fucking uh,
moment
a,
happened.
the streak just ended, and I forgot where Taker was at that point with his streak, but he was very high up
21
there.
and 1. 1
Thank
and
you,
0.
thank you.
And
And go ahead.
and another thing about that Divas match, that was the only time that they done that Divas match. The only
Only time.
time.
And
And
the way the match went with the Divas match, very quickly, just to piggyback off the Brock Lesnar Undertaker match, the crowd was extremely quiet throughout maybe one half to three fourths of the match. And then they finally got hit with the realization that that just happened. So now at this point, they're basically chanting Undertaker, Undertaker. They're booing, they're reacting a little bit. It wasn't
thank you,
a
Taker.
it didn't become a riot. Thank you. It didn't become a riot, but people were showing support for Taker, which great. But I talked to a lot of people about this moment, and people were saying that basically the same thing I was saying. They didn't hear a bell. They didn't think it was real. They thought it was a work. They were looking around to see if the referee was going to do like a, oh well, no, no, no. It was nothing like that. They just did it. Even the way Paul sold it was perfect. The way Paul sold it, it was like he couldn't believe that Brock won. And yeah, it was one of the most surreal moments to ever happen in Mania history. The match itself was not good, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just be honest. And again, that's why this WrestleMania is low as it is. But the result of it definitely solidified along with Daniel Bryan's matches. So that is that on the streak. I would be a lot more animated, but I'm in my family home. So
Yeah.
uh, continue, Mr. Jedi. What you got for
Okay.
us?
Okay. So going back to the Divas match, that match was the first of its kind. No one, we don't even know the full instructions or the match rules for that match. as it is, and you introduce that match after that moment. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, okay, is this elimination style? Is this going to be a battle royal? Is it going to be a one fall thing? No, how does an invitational match work in things? And you name it after Vicky Guerrero, who is no longer with the company anymore or anything like that. I mean, it just aged very poorly and was not that good. Now, the Daniel Bryan winning, we do have that spot where he gets powerbombed and RKO'd onto the announce table. That spot I do remember, and him tapping, making Batista tap out, completely reminiscence of the next um, thing that's on our list,
Great
WrestleMania
segue.
20
Great
main
segue.
event.
Yeah.
Um, so WrestleMania 20 is on this list for various reasons.
Yep.
On here, um, we had several different takes on this event by itself. Um, so we had to go by the match card by itself on this
Mm-hmm.
match quality, how much it would have aged well, and things. Um, did we know at the time of this event of what would have happened with the main event and things? No, we wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
We did not expect to see to have anything that would have impacted us as much as what happened in the main event. That's one of the reasons why this event is very low on the list. Um, but you get a lot of other things on here. So before you say, "Oh, why is this even on here?" There's other better WrestleManias and things. We got a lot of better matches overall. We got Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle. We got Paul
Classic.
Undertaker versus Kane too.
Mm-hmm.
There, where Undertaker returned as the dead man, basically. John
Yep.
Cena versus Big Show opened up the night, and that was
The
John Cena's
Bananas.
first WrestleMania,
Yep.
and that's an instant classic by itself. They can show it all the time on WWE. Uh, Rob Van Dam and Booker T winning the tag team championships. Christian versus Jericho, Evolution versus Rock and Sock Connection. Mick Foley has gone about that in one of his documentaries as one of his
Speak on.
finest matches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's several different matches on here that actually works better for
Oh, why you ain't
this.
talk about Goldberg and Lesnar, Jedi? Why that match isn't included in those matches you just named?
Okay, okay.
Continue.
So
Continue, man. I'm sorry.
if you play the WWE 2K game, WWE 2K, what is it, 14? When they do
Yeah.
the 30 years of WrestleMania,
Yeah.
they actually include that match.
Not only do they include the match, they include the chants of the crowd, where they were basically like, "You sold out, you sold out, you
Yeah,
can't wrestle." No, they didn't say that, but they
no,
they
no,
said you can't. You sold out basically,
yeah,
and even the
and
commentary team actually acknowledged that they said they are doing the chants.
yeah,
If I recall what Jerry Lawler was saying on commentary.
yeah,
So yeah, they reenacted the match pretty well on 2K14. One of the better showcases, by the
yeah,
way, that they ever done.
yeah.
Um,
Now,
but go ahead.
now, for for 2K24 that I have on my Xbox, I have not gotten to WrestleMania 20 yet. So, do they have this on WrestleMania on the 40th anniversary for WrestleMania?
Yep.
I don't really think so. I don't see Brock Lesnar on there. I don't see Goldberg on the roster. Of course, we don't have Goldberg on the roster for 2K anyway because of what happened. So they understandably probably cut that out anyway.
Yeah.
So wouldn't surprise me one bit on that. So there's that. Um, but yes,
Yeah,
Brock
and
Lesnar.
the story behind this particular match, just to expand upon it very quickly, is obviously these two behemoths were leaving the company. We don't know what Goldberg went off to go do, but Brock Lesnar was going to go play in the NFL. Obviously, he had a little bit of a stint with the Vikings, and then that led to his UFC career. And then that led to his return a little bit later with Cena. But this match, obviously, they just took a paycheck. They just say, you know what? Um, they probably even agreed on it. I'm not confirming the story in any way. Do not take what I'm saying seriously when I talk about this. But
We'll save that for no topics barred.
yeah, no topics barred. We do plan on interviewing a couple of different stars and talking about different events through the history of the company. I would say that Goldberg and Brock probably both agreed that they said, "Fuck this shit, we're taking a paycheck," and yeah, that led to the match that we received. It kind of just felt like finisher, reversal out of the finisher, end of the match. Um, it was non-eventful. It was disappointing, and even Stone Cold at the end couldn't save the match by stunning both of them.
No.
Unfulfilling, disappointment. And as a younger fan at the time, I was born in '94, but I was still pretty young around this time. Um, as a younger fan at the time, I was very disappointed because I was really looking forward to this match. It was a dream match for me, actually. And I would say that they corrected that and redeemed themselves, as we spoke about previously with WrestleMania 33. So
Yeah.
let's pretend this one didn't happen, Jedi. Let's move on along.
Yes. Uh-oh. Hold on. Audio issues.
How unprofessional. Now, guys, I gave this man hell. Just side note, I gave this man hell trying to get this podcast going with me as a co-host. Um, I was unprofessional, and again, I apologize to my compadre over here. But we're gonna take over this YouTube space, man. Just wait on us. Just wait on
Yeah.
us. We do have a lot of big plans in store, and this is just the beginning. Tune in.
Yeah.
Continue, Jedi. What you got?
Okay. So we got the next event, WrestleMania 31. Um, and for WrestleMania 31, we got the pre-show of Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. I forget what their tag team name was supposed to be. In a fatal four-way tag team match, they won. Obviously, Big Show won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal finally, and he did his big pose and things. Daniel Bryan winning the Intercontinental Championship match, and Randy Orton and Seth Rollins.
So let me briefly talk about this Jedi. First of all, with Daniel Bryan, I accept him winning the IC belt in the ladder match because he unfortunately had to relinquish the belt. It was not in his control. Obviously, he got injured, and that led to him having to take a hiatus. When he came back for the 2015 Royal Rumble, they've already decided that we already gave you your moment with him winning the belts at 30. Now it's time for Roman to get his. So,
Yeah.
if you remember, and this is just a little backstory before we continue, Daniel Bryan went against Bray Wyatt. Um, was it 2015 or 14 when he went against Bray Jedi? Bring me up to speed. I'm sorry. Um, he did. It's beside the point. He did enter the Royal Rumble at number 9, 10, somewhere around that line, and that's what happened. He got eliminated by Bray. He didn't even last that long in the Rumble, and unfortunately, that led to Fastlane. I enjoyed their brawl on Raw and everything like that. And I think their way of saying, okay, we'll give you a bone is him winning this match for the IC title. I remember this match a little bit. I did enjoy it. And I'm glad that he was able to win the IC belt in that moment. It don't get talked about enough, honestly.
Yeah.
I was gonna bring up Randy Orton and Seth Rollins very quickly. The big spot where Seth's stomp gets reversed. Basically, Orton just projects this man up into the air, and the trajectory that he went up on was crazy. He elevated high as shit, right? And the story behind it obviously is that they rehearsed it once and they didn't get it right the first time they rehearsed it, and they just said we're just going to wing it in the match, and it looked like they practiced it for years. It looked perfect, and Orton was able to secure the RKO in the air. And yeah, we spoke about 2K earlier. We see it all the time where he does these different variations of the RKO, and I think this was one of the matches that led to that being a thing. So great match.
Was even doing
I
that before that too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
This will be like Evan Bourne, and yeah.
Yeah.
So great match. Fourth on the card, coming off the IC title match, and at this point, this is shaping up to be a very decent WrestleMania. So let's all go on down the list.
Okay. Next we have Triple H versus Sting, where they
Oh,
say, "Oh, this is not going to be anything with WCW versus WWE. Nothing
oh,
to do with that."
that's what they say.
Midway through,
That's what
bring
they say.
out NWO DX and make it into WCW versus WWE. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
What? What
guys.
is? I mean, seriously, why the hell would you do that? Makes no sense. You should just gave us Sting versus Undertaker and not have this be Sting's warm up match for WWE. Makes
Hey,
absolutely no
McMahon,
sense. Save it for a
Mac,
few more WrestleMania, about 3 more WrestleManias, and would have been good. And we,
McMahon, you left money on the table. You left money on the table with this one. Why did nobody ask for this fucking match? I don't mean to interrupt you, Jedi. Nobody asked for this match. Nobody asked for Triple H to go against Sting. When Sting came into the company and he debuted, sure, Triple H was in the ring, and that was his debut into the company. And up until that point, he was wrestling in TNA. And, you know, he was one of the older guys who actually had more to give. And, you know, we were putting dream matches in our mind about what he can possibly face or who he could possibly face. And nobody in their fucking cards had him go against Triple H in those dream matches. The first match we thought about was him versus Undertaker, and it should have happened at this Mania, but instead this is what we got. But not only did we get this match that we didn't want, they made it into a storyline between the NWO and WWE and labeled it as us versus them, which made no sense whatsoever. Sting didn't even mention this in the build up to this match. Triple H didn't mention this in the build up to this match. Nobody did. Nobody thought about this title for this match until the day of. And basically Vince was like, yeah, you know, let's stick it to WCW one last time. It was him going on a power trip, and Sting got screwed over in the end. You know what I'm saying? They had DX come out for this match. Sting had the NWO come out, which makes sense, I guess, because Sting was in the NWO at one point. And it led into a train wreck. So that's all I have to say about this match. It sucked. It
it
sucked.
was really
So,
bad. Really
so
bad.
Jedi, what you got?
Next, we have AJ Lee and Paige versus Bella Twins. We're not going to talk about that. John Cena versus Rusev. USA versus Bulgaria at this
Bulgaria.
point.
Yeah, yeah.
And um, nothing big, noteworthy. John Cena wins. LOL. He gets the pinfall, gets the victory, gets the U.S. title. USA wins. All that good stuff.
How patriotic.
Yeah,
How patriotic.
makes
At the
no sense.
expense of Rusev, who was undefeated at the time, who had the United States belt, who had this hot woman on his side. Bro, he had everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for them to just dethroned his push immediately with him going to get Cena. Now, it led to Cena doing the United States Open Challenge, which I did enjoy, and it did lead to Kevin Owens debuting from NXT to take that title away from Cena. Did I want him to beat Rusev for the title? No. Did Cena need to beat Rusev for the title? No. This is what I mean where I say certain like Undertaker and Cena, they could have lost their names were solidified. They could have lost these up and coming stars because bear in mind at 31 was kind of the beginning of these new faces coming from NXT up to the main roster and signifying their run in the company and basically insinuating a new era of wrestlers. You know, away with the steroids, away with the bulkiness, and in with the high flying, in with the technicality. Even though we had technical wrestlers,
Yeah.
Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit. Oh, sorry, uh, Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, and yeah, many others. So yeah, man, I feel like Rusev could have won this match, but it was still a good match. I feel like I'll be fair. So
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, we've talked about Bray Wyatt should won against the Undertaker in this match too, but of course, Undertaker was coming off of the streak ending at that point. It could have gone either way there, but also Bray Wyatt was injured, had an injured ankle at that time. So,
yeah,
understandably, yeah, just let Undertaker win that match. Overall, would have been the better choice going forward. It's kind of difficult to say, really, but in hindsight, probably give Bray Wyatt that victory and put in a storyline of Undertaker losing 30, 31, potentially 32, which um, isn't on this list. Um, and
I think Bray ended out okay.
yeah,
I think he ended out just fine. So
yeah, yeah.
that was that.
And let it end up in like 36 where he finally gets his revenge, his redemption, and do it that way. Um,
Yep.
34 was him versus Cena anyway, and he came back and won. So there's that. So yeah, it is what it is on that.
All right, let's get to the
Um,
big one, Jedi. What we got? What we got next?
Seth Rollins, or sorry, Brock
Hey,
Lesnar versus Roman Reigns,
spoiler. Yeah,
and the heist of the century with Seth Rollins.
the heist of the
Uh,
century. Yes, sir.
so heist of the century with Seth Rollins, where we never knew that you could cash in the money back, not just at WrestleMania, not just on the main event, but in the middle of the freaking match when they're all down and the match actually sucks at that point.
And
And you bring it up and make this into one of the classic match events of all time.
okay,
In
let's
a,
let's
an event where you already saw the guy with the money in the bank already lose earlier and was supposed to be going home and not do anything. And here he comes in the middle of the main event, nearly gets F5'd. Brock Lesnar gets speared with him on there. He comes up and curse talks Roman Reigns, wins the title,
hell
and
yeah.
runs out.
Oh yeah. And just swings the belt like a madman above his head. Perfect ending to the match. I described it earlier in the 5 hour call with Jeremy. This is one of the most surreal endings, and we just came out of WrestleMania 30. This is one of the most surreal endings to a WrestleMania that ever happened. Because as he said, it just never was done before. I think the Money in the Bank stipulation in these WrestleManias lasted for a multitude of years before this actually happened, and it's never been done before. Roman came in his Shield entrance, same music, same type of entrance, and people were basically throwing shit at him, tugging at him, flipping him off. He came in with so much adversity. Brock came out, and they had what I would call a good match. People don't want to give him their credit. Well, they might give it to him now because everybody likes Roman now. But at the time, people didn't want to give this match credit. They didn't want to credit Roman with anything good wrestling wise. They just didn't like him being pushed in everybody's face. Um, it came to a point where both men are down, and I just remember hearing Sep's music, and I'm like, and it's surreal because he just came off of a loss with Randy Orton, so I'm thinking, well, this is not happening right now. That man took off in a full sprint. He basically Usain Bolt down the fucking long ass ramp, went crazy into the ring, gave the briefcase to the ref, and said, "I want to be in this match." And that's when they announced that he was a part of this match. Now, it wasn't without adversity because he did a stomp, and then he went for a stomp on Brock. He put him in a F5 position, which Roman then speared him, and then he was able to stomp Roman and pin him for the win. And it definitely looked like a heist because he basically just stole the match from both of these men and went up the ramp and just started celebrating like a rock star. And the pose at the end is very symbolic. I enjoyed the hell out this ending. It caught me out of left field. And I basically agree with JBL's sentiments where he was like, this is brilliant. It was fucking amazing. It was genius. It was brilliant. And the old man got this one right. And this signified the run of corporate Seth Rollins, which in my mind was the best character that he's had up to this point. So perfect ending to this match. And, I give it, for the ending alone, I give it 4+ stars. I can't give you the exact number, but I enjoyed the hell out of this.
Yeah. It was very surprising for both of us, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Next WrestleMania that we're going to, WrestleMania 28. Once in a lifetime, John Cena versus The Rock. Kane Orton, Big Show, Cody Rhodes, where Cody Rhodes goes for one of his kicks, ends up with a fist to the face. WMD. Undertaker versus Triple H, Hell in a Cell, special guest referee Shawn Michaels.
Excellent match. End of an era.
Yeah.
And, previously in the other WrestleMania, Undertaker went against Triple H, to which obviously Undertaker won that match. So also with Shawn losing to Taker twice in Mania and actually ending his career, Shawn was at an impasse here where he had to decide between basically assisting Triple H, which he didn't want his help. That's the story, that he didn't want him to help him win the match. Or does he get revenge on Taker for him losing? And in turn, that goes against Triple H's wishes. So it was very entertaining to see Shawn go through this decision making across the match. You can see the emotion. He's just so damn good, bro. The emotion that he portrayed in that match as a referee added so much to it, and it added to the drama of it. And ultimately, I think it definitely signified the end of an era because we grew up watching these men come through the Attitude Era up to where we at this point. And I think it was, in many ways, one of the better matches to ever happen on a WrestleMania. When I say a top match, well, tune in to find out because me and Jedi will do a top 10 matches of WrestleMania. So you will have to tune into that to find out. But very excellent match. Yeah. High marks, no complaints. Yeah. Jedi?
So we also have CM Punk versus Chris Jericho. That was a really good match. Quick story of this WrestleMania event. I had a watch party at my house, and for those of you who don't remember on where my house is located right across the street from a gas station. So I have a watch party at the house. Several of my friends are there. They already paid for the pay-per-view and everything for there at Southwest. And I decide, since the entrances are going on, by the time I get back, they should still be in this match. I'm going next door to get snacks and drinks and things. And unbeknownst to me, right when I close the door, the match is already over. So I get a couple drinks, probably like a snack or two, and by the time I'm back, it's in the middle of Kane Randy Orton, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? What happened to Sheamus and Daniel Bryan? Oh, Sheamus just won the match like in a quick squash match.
Oh my god!
How the hell does this happen? They built it up all that much just for a freaking squash? How long was it? Like right when you left, that he made the pinfall. I had to literally go back and rewatch it while later on YouTube just to see what all happened. I was like, wow, that was fast.
So, if I remember correctly, Daniel Bryan said in his book that this particular match had its time cut. Now, how does it have its time cut from what it was to 18 seconds is insane. And just the way that the squash happened, you might as well not even do the match. Why even disrespect us like that? Because you're basically insinuating that Daniel Bryan is a scrub. He's a jobber, which he's not. We know he's not. We know what he was in Ring of Honor.
He was
And
champion at that time.
I'm sorry, man. You kind of cut out in your feed. We know what he was in Ring of Honor. We know what he was when he came into the Nexus and he became the American Dragon, and he had the Playboy gimmick going on with the Bella twins and all of that. But we knew what he was, and Vince didn't, and that was unfortunate. But actually, if this match never happened, we probably would have never got the Daniel Bryan push that came about shortly after this Mania. So in this way, this match was symbolic of the beginning of his push.
And that's why it's higher on the list.
Against Vince's will, obviously, but yeah, it needed to happen. So this match, obviously, it was what it was, and mind you, this is for the World Heavyweight Championship. This is for your second biggest belt on the brand, and it went 18 seconds on a WrestleMania card. Just consume that for a minute. Think about that for a second. So yeah. That's that match. Yeah. Jedi.
Okay, next we get WrestleMania 40 at number 4. This WrestleMania just happened just last year. So with it being this high on the list out of 40 WrestleManias says a lot about this event. And we just had to breeze on through it. And at one point, we just had to say, look, was this WrestleMania worthy enough to make it to the top 10? And we summarized that yes, it did, because Cody Rhodes finally finished his story. We got Rhea Ripley beating Becky Lynch. We got Bloodline Roman Reigns and The Rock defeating Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins in night 1, which set up the events of night 2.
Zayn and Gunther.
Gunther was match number 6 of night 1, and that one is going to be, my prediction is it's going to be an exact carbon copy of what's going to happen at WrestleMania 41. Right there. That's what they're building it up to be. Might as well do it. Jay versus Jimmy. And
ain't no and. That match was garbage, man. And I'm a big fan of Mr. Yeater, the Yeater of Worlds. But man, this match kind of shit the bed, to be very vague. And Jay has spoke about it before, that he just hates that he let the fans down, and it's okay. There are times it happens in the Mania environment. You just have to deal with the cards that are with on your tables, and so that's understandable. But unfortunately, before even the match started, I was just kind of thinking, like, these two have the same wrestling styles. How can they differentiate to make it such an interesting match? And they failed to deliver because it was a super kick fest. I thought I was watching a Young Bucks match. But anyway, yeah, man. Continue, Jedi.
Yeah. And of course, night 2 we get Drew McIntyre versus Seth freaking Rollins. Damon Priest cashes in the Money in the Bank. This is probably the second cash in WrestleMania history to happen at WrestleMania. Big Pop, of course.
Big Pop. Yep.
Yeah, it started out with, and that leads to Drew's downward spiral at that point. He gets his moment that he wants to for only 9 seconds. Not much else to say about that. LA Knight versus AJ Styles, Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens and Randy Orton in a triple threat match. That really had a really bad build up to it. You already knew with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton being a tag team at that time, that Logan Paul was going to win. But that was very predictable, not needed, not necessarily. If you really want something like that, have Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton at that point. Of course, we were going to get that this year, but Kevin Owens has neck issues, so that match is up in the air. Bayley versus Io Sky. Bayley won, obviously, and Cody Rhodes finished the story, and that's why it's higher on the list.
Avengers Endgame, Marvel crossover with WWE. Basically, you just bring the gauntlet of legends out, and it was insane. It was chaotic, but it needed to happen the way it did. It was like the culmination of all different eras coming together that helped the new face of the company get his throne. So, big ups to Cody Rhodes, man. I'm a big fan of Nightmare. Let's continue, Jedi.
Okay. Getting into the nitty gritty here. So, number 3, we got WrestleMania 19.
My favorite WrestleMania of all time. But for bias purposes, I couldn't put it at number one. I'm sorry. But let's go down the list, sir. What we got?
We got Matt Hardy versus Rey Mysterio. We got Undertaker versus Big Show and A-Train. We got Trish Stratus defeating Victoria and Jazz. Team Angle versus Los Guerreros. Shawn versus Chris Jericho, which is a very classic match. Triple H, Booker T. Wait, I thought that was never mind. Hogan versus McMahon. Rock versus Austin. Remind me which number that was, and Lesnar versus Kurt Angle. Last week, I talked about Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle in extreme detail. So I don't think I need to go any further into that match. Triple H versus Booker T. I'm very surprised on it being in this one here, and that was a really good, very controversial build-up, and you don't belong in the title picture and things.
Oh boy.
Completely there. Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, very classic match, just like I said. That bumps it up a hell of a lot there. So that's why this is up here on the list.
If I may quickly speak on Rock and Stone Cold, and then we'll move on. This is the third match. You asked which match this was. This is the final match in their trilogy. They obviously had their match of 15, 17, and now this will be 19. And this was my favorite gimmick by The Rock. This was Hollywood Rock. And, I feel like the match had a lot of drama. Rock was the only one that knew, along with maybe Vince, that Stone Cold, this was going to be his last match until it wasn't. And he had the double knee brace. Sorry. So he wasn't prime Stone Cold, but the drama that was into the match, how it was set up, it's one of my personal favorites. It's a personal bias. I know people can say 17 is the best one, and fine, I agree with you. But this is my personal favorite match due to the gimmick and what it led to, and the comedy that was in the match, as well as Rock finally getting his win over Stone Cold in the trilogy. So let's move on.
All right, so we're down to the final two. So what do y'all think the final two is going to be here? Because we got 40 matches here, and we had to reduce it down to 10. So let's go on to the final two. Number 2 is WrestleMania 39. So people are going to question, why is 39 so high on the list? Why is 39 higher than 40? Why is 39 higher
Excuse me?
all the others? Are we brand new at this? Are we new fans? Did we not do our research? Yes, we
Shit.
did. We spent 5 fucking hours doing research on this freaking topic. 5 hours.
5 hours, man. 5. And it was a very grueling 5. It was fun, but it was grueling as hell. This is a very difficult list to formulate, everybody. This takes work. And we came to a decision between two as far as what was going to be our top two. And it wasn't too difficult for me to decide that this would be number two. Um, Obviously, everybody got a recency bias. But I think this one deserves the spot that it gets. So let's run down the card
Okay, you
um,
got Austin
to prove
Theory.
our point.
All right, you got Austin Theory being John Cena. I get what they were doing with Austin Theory at that time, but yeah, Street Profits being Braun Strowman, Ricochet, Alpha Academy, the Viking Raiders. You got that match. Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. KSI again, moonsaulted on was the highest thing for that event. Trish Stratus and Lita being damage control there. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. That was a match that we were banking on since Dominic's debut. We were not expecting it to be the build up that it was. We were hoping it would be a different kind of build up to
True.
it. But Dominic decided to do the deadbeat dad thing, knowing that that's not so. And it was just god awful promos and things. He was not that good. He did not deliver it confidently. You could just tell that he did not like saying that about his dad and things. He really loves his dad overall.
He enjoyed
It's
splashing water on his sister, though. I saw he
yeah,
enjoyed
yeah.
that.
That's a highlight there. Um, then we have Mommy versus the Queen.
Yes, sir.
Um, Pat McAfee versus the Miz. I'm not sure what the big deal was with that one.
Me either.
Um, then Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos. That one had been building up for a really long time. Deserved that main event spot for night one.
Excellent
And
match. Emotional match to end off night one. Just all around, just the story, the match itself, the hot tag lead up. They made Kevin Owens and Sammy work for that win. And
yeah,
this is the Usos at the top of the world. They were considered the best tag team, far none. I mean, you could argue FTR at the time. You can argue a couple different teams, but ultimately the Usos were on top of the world with Roman and the Bloodline. And Sammy has been with the Usos for a minute. We all know the story of it. It's one of the best storylines to exist in the modern era. And for him and Kevin Owens to have that moment and to pay tribute to Jay Briscoe, rest in peace. Uh, that was a very emotional moment, and I actually shed a couple tears a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't tell Jeremy that, but I shed a couple tears watching this match, man.
yeah,
It was I loved it. It was very fulfilling to what I wanted to see, and high marks. One of the best tag matches to ever exist in the Mania. Sorry, that's
exactly,
just my opinion.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And another thing there is that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn won that match, and you know that Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes was main event night two. Did
Yeah.
that did that win create any kind of spoilers as to what might happen with the championship in that main event match?
For me, no. I did this WrestleMania in Hollywood. This was supposed to be the culmination of the Bloodline story because it was going on since COVID, where Jay was the right hand man, and Jimmy came back from injury, and they're trying to get Jimmy on board, and now they're a trio, and now you have Sammy, who's the oddball, trying to get into the group to fit in, and then he proves his worth, and now they basically turn on him because he don't want to complete the job as far as basically putting Kevin Owens out of commission. So that led to the tag.
Share screen. Got it. All right. So night night two, night two. Let's move on. Move on past the glitch and technical difficulties. Brock Lesnar defeated almost. I don't even remember that match. Ronda Rousey versus and Shayna Baszler beating um, a in a fatal four way tag team match. Gunther defeating Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. We saw that match a few times, and of course, why not put it at WrestleMania? That at this point, they both had good matches. They were like, should we do Gun Sheamus or Drew McIntyre? Let's do it both of them. Let's do both of them against them. Let's let them beat both of them in 16 minutes. Have a good match there.
It
Bianca
stole
versus Asuka.
for sure. It definitely stole the show for night two for me. Just
Yeah,
wanted to put that in
yeah,
quick. Match
yeah,
of the night for that night.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah. Snoop Dogg versus The Miz. It being 2 minutes, 20 seconds. It did not feel that long, but okay, I guess. Edge versus Demon Finn Balor in Hell in Cell. Um, that was a really good match overall. And of course, we get Roman Reigns beating Cody Rhodes for the Undisputed Championship. Um, that match was good overall, in my opinion, all the way up until the ending. The ending is what drops it down to number two because of exactly what happens in the ending. Um, Tyler Turbo, your thoughts on that?
All right, man. So this is the big moment. This is where we finally get to see Roman lose the belts at 39, and this is at a time where Vince McMahon was going through his lawsuit, but he made a slight return back to creative. At least for this Mania, he did. That was the reports backstage and via the newsletters, and we all knew about the stories. I did not think that Vince would take over for this match and actually have the balls to say, "Hey, let's have Roman Reigns win the match." Like Jedi just said, it was a great match. I'm not going to take that away from them. There was a lot of drama in it, and I think the three crossroads would be a perfect way to end the match and him getting this moment finally. However, for Solo to already be ejected, and I guess the referee was out, so I guess that was an excuse for him to come in. For Solo to come in a damn hoodie and to spike Cody, and I don't know why Cody did. Looking at retrospect, why did Cody take so long to do the third crossroads? Why did he back up into a corner to try to do the crossroads? These are things that I question to this day, but you have to suspend your disbelief when you watch this product sometimes. But obviously, that led to what it led to. Cody got spiked, and I remember watching this live, and I'm like, they're not going to end the match. It's in my heart, my brain told me that they were going to end the match just off that, but my heart was saying it's not going to end this way. And me and Jeremy were going back and forth on Facebook about it, on Messenger, just disappointed that that was the finish that they went with. And I remember feeling pretty deflated afterwards. And I pretty much said that I kind of want to unsubscribe from wrestling altogether. And I know that's dramatic because it was a great WrestleMania, even besides the finish of this match. But that's how it made me feel. It made me feel defeated. It made me feel unfulfilled, and I feel like that was a very like it worked out in the end, obviously, so we can't complain too much. But at the time frame, it was very it pissed a lot of people off, including me. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Now, one of my friends that was a WWE referee or official, he actually enjoyed that match, and he was actually glad that Roman Reigns won. But I was like, man, why is that? And of course, he used to work in WWE when Cody Rhodes was getting out, and he just didn't like Cody Rhodes at all in general because he found him to be stuck up and things in person. And I was like, well, okay, that's your own personal opinion. I'll respect that. I'll give you get your perspective on that and things, um, but yeah, the story of it is right there. You need to do it. And the next year they finally finished the story and things. So yeah, that's why this is deserving of the list here. Do I like the way that they finished it off with Solo coming out and spiking Cody Rhodes in the end? No, no, I don't agree with it. But it is what it is. You have to deal with what you got to deal with.
True.
Um, Next on
Number one.
number one, number one on the list,
Here you go.
we
What
got
you got?
X WrestleMania X7
Yeah.
17.
Yes,
Number
sir.
one, the most
You,
predictable thing to be number one on there, the perfect WrestleMania of all time.
y'all knew this. Come on now. It don't,
Everyone knew this was coming
yeah.
up. Why
Yeah.
not have WrestleMania X7 on the list? Not have it on the list. It needs to be on the list if we
Mm,
included everything else.
mm.
Um, Looking at the match card, and bear in mind, this was right when WWE beat WCW. This is their
Mm.
celebratory um, event
The
for
end
it.
of the Attitude Era, as they
End of the
called it.
Attitude Era, everything else.
Mm.
You got Chris Jericho versus William Regal. Decent way to start out the show, but you know it's going to get better. Um,
Absolutely.
Taz and APA versus Right to Censor. Perfect 3 minutes. Kane versus Raven and Big Show for the Hardcore Championship. Okay. Um, Eddie Guerrero versus Test. Kurt Angle versus. Can we say his name or name retracted?
This, this is up to you, man. If you want to edit it later, you can. I obviously said it already. That was by accident for sure.
Kurt
But
Angle versus Chris Benoit. We're going to
there,
do a special episode on him later on down the road, probably sometime in June or so. But we just got to go with that episode later on.
there's
But
the Jedi. That's the Jedi I know before he
yeah,
left. Hell yeah. All right, come on. Let's
yeah,
go.
yeah. So we got that match. That was a really classic match. China versus Ivory, Shane McMahon versus Mr. McMahon. I was kind of questioning this as should this be a top 10? And Turbo said, yes, this is a top 10. This
Yes.
is a top 10 thing because you get Linda McMahon standing up out of the wheelchair and beating the living shit out of um, Vince and Trish. So you get it. You get that. Edge, Dudley Boys, Hardy Boys, TLC, oh my. Tables Out Chairs, oh my. Iron Sheik in the Gimmick Battle Royal. Obviously, Iron Sheik at the time was having bad knees, and he could not exit out of the ring, so they had to give him that win. But they did it perfectly, um, in the most perfect way possible. That was 3 minutes, 50 seconds, almost 4 minutes. Undertaker versus Triple H won. That was a very classic event, very
True.
classic match. You knew
Hmm.
that they had to face each other eventually again. Um, Triple H was supposedly supposed to win that, but then they discovered, oh wait, Undertaker has a streak. Change the ending, and then
Can't end that. No, exactly.
can't do that. And then finally, Stone Cold versus The Rock, no disqualification, where
Wow.
it's the biggest shock of the century, um, where Stone Cold made the deal with the devil.
Mm.
Um, I was not watching WWE at that time, but when I came back to it, and when I actually did this match while doing the um, WWE showcase for 14, that came up as a big shock to me. Just my own personal opinion on that. And then they did the WWE Network thing and things. But yes, that came up as a big shock. Like, oh my God, Stone Cold actually teamed up with Vince McMahon. That's very shocking to me, even to this day, for that. And if you're a wrestling fan like we are, watching wrestling since day one all the way down to now,
Hmm.
and when you have a gap in between where you just stop watching wrestling altogether due to own personal issues, a moment like that happening in between that and finding out happens is a huge, huge shock to you later on down the road. Even if you saw it live, it's a big shock because of how much shit Stone Cold put Vince McMahon through, and for them to share a beer together at the end and shake hands is just, oh my God, dude. I don't even know what to say.
I do. Ladies and gentlemen, the 7-year-old me watching this live as one of my first pay-per-view manias that I ever was able to have the grateful pleasure to be able to have. Shout out to my grandma. She did this for me. Um, my family, I would say particularly my grandfather, my grandmother, my great grandmother who passed away, unfortunately, rest in peace, Granny Bessie, and her daughter, which is my grandmother. They're all wrestling fans. And that's why I grew up into loving wrestling because I was in their TVs along with them watching The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, Mankind, Undertaker, Shawn, you name it. I was an attitude baby. Jeremy was more golden era slash new generation. I was an attitude baby. And this match here, man, just watching it live, I remember I almost cussed and got in trouble at the living room floor just because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This is what people think
Why so? Why?
John Cena's recent turn is right now, where they just, what the fuck just happened? And nobody expected Mr. McMahon. Nobody expected Mr. McMahon to team up with his arch nemesis, the very man that he despises, who the Attitude Era is centered around these two men going at each other's necks. Never would have thought that Stone Cold would have made a deal with the devil. And Jim Ross's reaction is probably one of the best commentator calls in the history of wrestling. I wouldn't even say just the company, but of wrestling. And he was just saying, "Why, Steve? Why?" It just solidified the moment because just the multiple chair shots to Rock, just like you said, him and Vince sharing a beer at the end at the expense of Rock just arriving on the ring, and Stone Cold just giving an FU to the crowd and everything, and nobody saw this coming. For me,
Yeah,
this is one of the biggest turns ever. People may say Cena, and that's perfectly fine. I understand. For me, as a 7-year-old young fan, this was my moment. This was my shock moment. A couple more happened during my fandom, but this started it all. Worthy of being the last match we speak about in this top 10 countdown, and it will definitely make our top 10 matches. Spoiler, when we start that podcast episode up. I think it was great. People will say what they say about how the heel turn turned out for Stone Cold, but for the moment itself, it was surreal to see. You just had to live the moment. You had to be in the moment. You had to be there to understand the weight of it. So yeah, and I knew something was weird when Stone Cold came out to Disturbed. Badass theme, by the way. When he came out to the Disturbed version of his theme song, I'm like, this is a little bit different. And just the smile he was giving Rock, like he had something up his sleeve. You just saw the little details later. I didn't see it at the time as a kid, but the little details added up later. Like he knew this was going to happen. So yeah, that ends off our top 10 list. Um, I enjoy doing this. The 5 hours that me and Jedi spent making this, I enjoy. I kind of wish that we could have brought some of that conversation to this episode, but guys, we will be doing more content in the future. This is the official start of the Broken Turnbuckle podcast. hosted by Jeremy the Jedi Guillory and his co-host Tyler Turbo Williams. And expect more to come. We're here. We are
Definitely.
here. Yes,
Definitely.
sir.
So, yeah. Like, share, subscribe, do what you normally do, comment, curse us out for WrestleMania 30 being so low.
We welcome it. We welcome it.
Definitely, definitely.
Bring it.
Welcome all controversy. You've seen my previous videos. You should know exactly how I work. I don't freaking care. Uncensored, unbridled, everything else, um, unscripted, unrehearsed. This is the Jedi 08. Um, that has been Tyler the Turbo Williams. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye. Later.